Hey guys, Editing Jess here. Welcome back to Roots Refuge Farm. This video is a little different. I actually shot this in with a vlog, but as I was editing, this was just such rich information that I felt like it kind of needed to stand alone in its own video. So I'm going to let you guys watch this. Meet me back here at the end because I have some comments that I'd like to make about this. Hey guys, so I want to introduce you to someone. This is Will. You're going to be seeing him around quite a lot, because he's working here now, playing in the dirt, yeah. So we met Will when we first moved here, well, before we moved here, because he reached out to us. He and his family watched the channel, and he worked for, well, do you want to put that on here?
DHEC.
Yeah, is that fine? Okay, I don't know if you want to talk about all that, but he worked for DHEC and permitted septic systems. And he knows this right here. And he knows a lot about soil. And so he's actually coming on with us to kind of bring some education, to bring kind of a permaculture edge, and to work with me in our garden. So we have help with building, and we have had help with building and farm stuff, but I've never actually had somebody working for us that's really into growing food the way that I am, as far as wanting to garden and wanting to do it sustainably. So Will's out here right now, and we are exploring our soil. So you just kind of spit off some really cool facts to me. So I kind of want to explain this to them, because I hear a lot of people, they'll go, I have really bad soil, I have clay. Or I have really bad soil, I have this or that. Will just said to me, all soil has benefit. All kinds. Yeah,
all of them have pros and cons.
Right, and so we're looking at what I have, and I want to tell you all about it. So what is this tool called?
That's just, I mean, it's just your topsoil. It's clay here. There's no sand at all, which is, like I said, there's pros and cons to every type of soil. It's about 8 inches of topsoil. And then you get into this right here. I'm looking at as far as drainage.
Yeah.
So if when you have clay, at least in South Carolina, you want a redder clay like that. When you start getting these paler colors in it like that, that's called redoxamorphic features. And that happens when water sits in the soil, it starts turning paler colors. I mean, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Like I said, as far as permaculture, holding water is not really a bad thing.
Yeah. So how deep are we right here?
About 18 inches.
About 18 inches. So on top we have more, what would you call this? It's
a clay. It's topsoil, but it's I guess it'd be a clay loam.
Clay loam.
It's not sandy clay loam, I wouldn't say.
It's real dense. And then you hit more red clay, and as he was saying, when you start, red clay is not bad. When you start hitting these bleached out spots is where you're dealing with waters being held. And what we're doing here is we're going down, because we're trying to see how deep we hit expansive clay, which doesn't drain.
No, it's really tight clay. It's just, this isn't quite expansive, but it's very tight. So
Ezra's been digging this up and making sculptures out of it.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect.
I mean, this right here, down about 18 inches down, is like really good sculpting clay.
Yeah, if you want to do pottery, you got
plan for that. I happen to be very fond of pottery. Also gardening, so we really want to make that the priority.
Expansive now. The expansive will start tubing up in the auger.
Yeah.
When you start hitting it.
But this being that deep, I mean, is really not an issue for gardening, right?
No, I mean, I have it on the surface of my entire property, so I don't know. I think this is the most creative type of soil you can have, because it holds water so good. You know, sand just drains immediately. I don't know if it's quite expansive. It's close. It'd be hard to get a septic system in this.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why our septic system's all the way.
Yeah, I had to pump
all the way up there.
They're gonna be laughing when they see this. You're doing exactly what you did here.
The only thing is, you won't be doing it every day. No. We'll do it a little bit, figure out what we're working with, and then plan accordingly.
Yeah, that's tight clay.
That's tight.
So now it's getting into some parent material if you want to feel the texture. It's a real silty.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow.
When it starts feeling silty like that, you're getting in the degraded rock, basically.
And so parent material is geology without biology, right? Like, this is more...
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think there's a lot of biology down there. I think it's mostly chemistry that degrades that rock and makes it soft like that.
That's so cool. The thing is like here we're getting, what Will was saying, we're getting to the parent material, which means this is degraded rock, which means that this isn't full of life. But, oh wow. Yeah, we're really hitting. So this is like what he was saying, parent material, this real kind of crummy, powdery almost. This is what we say is this is geology and not biology. This means it's parent material. This means that it's the earth, but it doesn't have a lot of life in it. And what a lot of people say when they're like, I have bad soil, they don't have bad soil. Like any soil can be amended to grow. And a lot of permaculture studies and a lot of things that people have done, they are purposefully going to like places that you would call dead in like the Middle East and desert places and in places that don't have like lush green life growing everywhere. And they are working in those places using permaculture methods to bring life to those places. And what you have to understand as a home gardener is like you might not have bad soil. You might have soil that doesn't like thrive immediately, but with some work and intention, by adding biology, which is life, which you get from compost, which you get from natural mulching, which you get from covering the soil, adding aeration, planting, and just bringing life back to the soil. This is good. I mean, this parent material here, this is so full of minerals.
Lots of minerals, yeah.
Lots of minerals, and we need that. And so what's happening a lot in modern agriculture is our food is being grown as monocrops in these big fields, and there's no nutrients in that soil because it's been so tilled and so stripped of all of the life. And what happens is chemical fertilizers are added back on and chemical inputs are added back on so that those plants will grow, and the plants are being fed but the soil is not. And ultimately what happens is we're eating inferior food because it doesn't have all the mineral content as if we were growing in really healthy soil. And so what we're looking for here is to understand what we're working with, but no matter what you find in your soil, it's not like hopeless. And this is probably like major oversimplification to say just simply add life back to your soil, but ultimately that is kind of the bottom line. To add life back to your soil is how you grow in any soil. And so talking to new gardeners a lot, they think this stuff is just insanely overcomplicated and they want just what's really simple. So very simply, I'm going to tell you, even if your soil is what you have been told is bad, if it's very sandy, if it's very clay, if it's strictly parent material where you've got kind of like powdery rock, the solution for all of those things is to reintroduce biology to the geology, is to reintroduce life to the soil, and that's what unlocks all of those nutrients. What you got there? Oh wow. So this is...
That's that parent material.
Yeah.
See how there's still some clay in it, but
yeah,
just the texture's totally
it's so
different.
cool looking. I mean, it's very much broken down rock.
Yeah, that came in around 2 feet. Deep tap-rooted plants will probably
get down to that.
Get into that, and they pull up the minerals from that.
So we'll be broad forking to 18 inches, so we won't get into this.
15 inches.
Okay, 15 inches.
But I think biodynamic nutrient accumulator plants is what they call them. They got the deep tap roots. Like chicory is one, but a lot of people chop and drop them because they pull up those nutrients from down deep, and then basically you have them on top of the soil. Oh, that's really cool. Point. Most plants just grow in the topsoil, the roots do, but there's certain types that'll get down 2 feet. Have the taproot on them. Looks like cement almost. That's like degraded slate rock right there. Yeah, you can feel the slate to it. See the layers in it still. That's neat. But it's oh yeah, you can really see, like, look at that. But it's been weathered where it is breaking apart a little bit. Right, yeah, that you can really see that's slate. That's so neat. So we're just hitting rock. Now it's real soft. It's easily broken, but that's just really softened shale. Say that again. Liberty lies within every piece of ground. Yeah. Will said there's no bad soil. Every piece of land is liberty. So good. That's beautiful. You know, our main
audience, I would say, or at least who we're like aiming at, is new gardeners and people who are really getting into growing. And obviously we're kind of expanding to a bigger point, but I told Will the first day he was here, I was like, you know, my goal in building this is I want to show as many entry points as possible into the world of growing food for people, because my deep conviction is that when people start growing, they really become wooed by it, and then they find their own way and their own expression. And there's no way to tell everybody in the world, here's the right way to do it, because like you just dug up, I mean, just a wide array of soil here, and people have different things in different places, and there's different ways of doing things. Now, I do want to tell you guys, you don't have to explore this to grow your first garden. However, if you're growing gardens, understanding what's in the soil will help you. It will help you. It's just good to know. It's just fascinating. So actually, because of the fact that we teach gardening content, I am doing a variety of gardening styles and expressions here in my garden belt. I've got this, I need to actually fully measure it, but this very large space. I think that this garden is gonna work out to be maybe a little over, about an acre, I think, the whole thing. I need to measure it to be absolutely sure. It might be a little more than that. We're doing all kinds of things. So we're doing raised beds, we're doing in-ground, we'll experiment with some different stuff. And in the in-ground, I really want to err on the side of not tilling, because when you don't till, it allows the soil to gain structure. It doesn't turn over the layers that have developed, which are important. And one of the things you can do when you are not tilling, but you want to aerate your soil, is broad forking. So you want to tell us about this, Mr. Will?
Here is a, I don't know, are you allowed to say the brand?
Yeah, that's
Meadow
fine.
Creature broad fork. This is supposed to be the best one.
You just bought it directly from them? Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
They're the ones that sell it. I probably should have got the smaller one because I don't have much topsoil. And when I do this, I like to stay in the topsoil layer. Like Jess said, you really don't want to mix any layers, but that's the point of the broad fork. It aerates it without mixing the layers.
Right.
And you have about 8 inches of topsoil, so I'm probably just going to go
like
about
halfway.
8 inches down instead of 15 inches. Yeah.
So this literally just adds some structure and aeration, and this allows drainage. Proper drainage allows life to develop, and what we really want, like I said, is we really want to encourage biology.
If you have a lot of rock, it makes it a little more difficult.
Yeah. We actually don't have a whole lot of rock here.
There you go. That's pretty much all you do.
Yep. So as you'll see, this is breaking the ground, but it's not turning it over. It's not mixing the different layers in. It's not exposing the part that's on the bottom up to the sun. So this is going to encourage that drainage while still protecting the life that exists in this soil.
It's not mixing up the layers. When you mix up layers, it messes up drainage. That's why you have plow pans. Yeah. A lot of times. See, I was on a rock right there. Couldn't get very far, but you just do that, and it just... That's so cool. Lets the soil breathe.
I'm gonna go over here to this compost pile and do that. Thanks for explaining to us, Will. So one of our goals here, it's education. And we feel really strongly that it's a really good time for people to be growing food. And we want to be able to teach people that. So our YouTube channel took off 4 years ago, and it's allowed us the ability to do more growing scale than we were able to before. It is very true that if you're doing what you love, you never work a day in your life. Like, it is very true that, like, this is just life and fun and entertaining. I love being able to do this. But you see us bringing people on, and like our goal in this, like we talked to Will when we first moved here about him starting this spring, because he knew so much that I was like, I want to connect this knowledge with what we're doing and be able to get that out to people. another thing, you know, we started our compost, and we started working with Phil Burton down in Florida about a month ago. He came out, and we started our compost pile, which sort of is breaking down a little bit slow, but we're going to be getting multiple of these piles going, and even bigger piles, and working on like a much larger compost effort, because how I was saying, we have to get biology back in the soil. And I want to explain this, and I want to encourage you guys to like not check out when we start talking about soil health, because I remember getting started in gardening and that seemed far too scientific. It seemed far too complicated. It seemed like more than I wanted to deal with and think about. But it's actually, it's not that hard. It's actually really simple whenever we grab hold of it. And I just want you to think of it like this. And we're gonna dive deep into this gardening season, because we're really gonna focus a lot on it. Every single living thing has different properties. And when we're talking about like the diversity of microbiome, what we're saying is we want a very wide array of microbes. We want to introduce that diversity in the life in the soil. So I'll have people message me and be like, well, what's the best compost? Should I get mushroom compost? Should I get composted green waste, which is like lawn clippings, branches? Should I get cow manure? What should I get? And my thought process is get some of all of them, because the healthiest soil has a diverse microbiome. And so when I'm making a compost pile, I don't want to just add goat poop. I want to add goat poop and cow poop and turkey droppings and chicken manure and kitchen scraps and the hay from the barns and the clippings from trees and wood mulch and things that are pulled out of the garden, because each different input is adding a different set of microbes in a different life. And when I get to take all the diversity of that biology, which is the study of living things, we have all of that biology, and we add it to the geology, which is the stuff that comes from the earth naturally, the sand, the clay, the loam, the broken down rock, all of those things. So we add that life into that parent material, and that life goes to break down that parent material and makes all of the nutrients that are available in the earth available to go into our food, which obviously makes us healthier. And so we may be like nerding out on pulling the soil up and look at this, and like Will was saying, oh, this is a chemical reaction that makes this shale 2.5 feet down so easy to crumble. And like, that's all very cool. But all you need to know and understand, and I loved the way that Phil Burton put it, because it made it click for me, is all you need to know is that to grow good food, you need to add biology, life, back to the geology, earth. All right, so I kind of said this, but I think it bears repeating. Understanding the simplicity of soil health and how much power you have when you really grab hold of that very simple fact that as a gardener that wants to grow plants, that growing in healthy soil, your main goal there is adding life back to that. Now, you'll read gardening books, you'll watch videos, and people are like, well, just add organic matter. This is why. Because when we add organic matter, that's biology, as we say, that's adding life back to the earth. And what that does is that life works to make all of the minerals that the earth provides bioavailable for us to receive in our food. That's beautiful. It's amazing, and it's hugely relieving. This should not be overwhelming for you. And I think that this message is really important, and it's one that you guys are going to hear me talking about a lot this gardening season, about how simple it is to understand that we just have to add life back to the soil. I don't believe that being afraid is ever going to grow something beneficial in us. I mean, wisdom and caution are definitely valuable things to operate in, but fear is ultimately crippling, and it ultimately makes us put our hands over our ears and shake our head and think, I just have to get through this. And you know, right now I'm seeing a lot of people post about like rising food costs and different things I know the commercial agriculture industry is dealing with a lot of prices of chemical inputs skyrocketing and stuff like that. But what I'm also hearing is that this is driving a lot of people back to the simplicity of, well, how do I make my soil healthy by myself? And so we're going to be talking a lot about this. This is where the benefit of a little worm farm. My friend Natalie at Hey It's a Good Life has a lot of really great information about worm farming, where a little compost pile, or we're just understanding that leaf mulch adds to the microbiome. Any manure that you can get your hands on adds to the microbiome. Wood mulch adds to the microbiome. All of these different things that you might be even right now raking up and removing from your property, if you just put some simple measure in order to break those down, and you have a resource there. And to me, this makes me feel tremendously less afraid. For some reason, for a long time, the idea of composting and soil science and soil health, I just was like, that's confusing. I don't want to look at that. I don't need to look at that. I just want to grow tomatoes. But over time, I really began to understand the value of that soil, and I would encounter the life in that soil, and I would encounter the incredible fruit that it made. And I was like, oh, this really isn't that difficult. And really grabbing hold of this idea, all I have to do to help my soil be healthy, to help my garden grow well, is just add life back to the soil. Add that organic matter. It's not complicated. There are so many beautiful things you can do, and it's worth exploring, and I want to explore that this year. It's very important to me that we explore this, because I think it's going to allow a lot of people to realize how much freedom they have, because it's not complicated. This is not out of your reach. You don't have to be afraid of not being able to have the stuff to grow your garden, because the world is full of life. It's all around us, and whenever we start seeing the value in all those different kinds of life, we realize we have lots of resources to grow our garden well. So here's to healthy soil. We'll go on this journey together. I think it's going to be just so special and so valuable and rich. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I bless you. Until next time.